What are we going to be doing? Let's talk about the scope of work of this room that we are about to design together. We work for ABC Integrator. Congratulations, you've been hired. And they are proposing to install a new state-of-the-art BYOD conferencing system for the Overlay Industries conference room. So Overlay Industries is the client. They're hiring our integration firm to put this conference room together. This is a BYOD conferencing room. So first thing I want to point out on that is that this is the kind of room where someone will bring in their own laptop and plug it in, and then whatever conferencing application is running on the laptop, they'll be able to make use of the cameras and the speakers and the microphones in the room. Now, there are increasingly large numbers of rooms that are dedicated to a single conferencing platform, like a Microsoft Teams room, a Google Meet room, a Zoom room, things like that. Everything that we learn in this class would still be 100% applicable to those types of rooms. All the connections, all the controls, what we do in Q-SYS is the same. It's just the way that it's delivered to the end user is a little bit different, but doesn't matter for what we're learning. We're doing mostly all the control side of things, which get delivered to those other platforms in their own control panels in various ways. So that's wonderful. So this system is going to include 2 cameras to allow for pickup of all the participants in the room. We're going to have a left camera and a right camera in the front of the room looking at the conference table. Users can wirelessly present or display 2 laptops via HDMI. So there's 2 HDMI cables, right, just in the middle of the table. They can pull it out. User can connect it. There's also basically a wireless receiver in the room of HDMI that you can log into remotely and get some content without having to plug your computer in. There's a tabletop microphone, which picks up everyone in the room. There are some column speakers for crystal clear audio to participants in the room, some good Q-SYS loudspeakers in the room. We're going to coordinate with other trades to implement control of the lights and the shades in the room, so we're in control of all the environmental elements here. And to make control simple and easy to use, touchscreen will be installed. And again, that's kind of the difference between a BYOD room and a dedicated room where there might already be a dedicated touch controller that we deliver our controls to. So what does this look like in the topography? We've got an NV32H, which is going to be operating in core mode, controlling everything in this room. We're using the NV32H for a reason. This is used a lot in installations like this, where it is the core, and it's also doing HDMI switching. So you got a couple of local inputs to a couple of local outputs without needing to put them on the network and make them AV streams. This box does it all. It also provides the USB bridging that you need to get the video and the audio to your laptop. It's perfect. So we've got our 2 laptops and a wireless presentation as our HDMI sources coming into the NV32H. We've also got that USB cable connection that's going to whichever laptop happens to be needing it at the time. Our left and right displays are connected via HDMI as the outputs from our NV32H. On the network, we've got a couple of other devices, our left and right PTZ cameras. We've got our touch panel. We've got our NMT1 microphone to bring in the voice of the participants in the room. We've got an SPA-QF for a networked amplifier going to our 2 loudspeakers on the wall. We are controlling the lighting system in the room via TCP, so that's also on the network. And we've got a QIO device, the LVR4, that's going to be providing the relays we need for shade control for the device in the room that needs some relay action in order to get those inputs and outputs. So this system is what we're designing. It's now a good time to go and open up your file. The assets that you got, there's a designer file in there. I want you to open up that now. Mine is called Starting Design, Control and UCI Training Series Starting Design. Yours is probably still called that, even though we may have changed it between the point of filming this and when we've delivered it to you. And it looks a little bit something like this. I want you to go ahead and open it with me. Follow along with me. If I ever, like I said, get too far forward, just pause it and then do the thing I asked you to do. First thing that we want to do is we want to emulate. Go to File, Emulate, or you can press F6. Once you're in emulation mode, go ahead and zoom in at the top here and enter your name in the student name field. And then please note that that is going to lock off after 60 seconds so that you can't use this file and give it to your buddy. We're watching you. And then in the last part of the class, when you're doing this with a live instructor, you'll be entering their name in the teacher field. But for now, just leave that blank. And then let's also save the file. So go to File, Save As, and add your name to this. So I'm going to do at the very top. I'm going to call this Nate. Okay, so we're just going to do a real quick tour of all the audio side of what's going on in this AEC system so that we can then go back and do all the control to control the system later on. So let's just go through every component here. Here are our microphone inputs. We've got them coming in via the NMT1. Those are being processed through a gating automatic mic mixer, and then we've got a gain control on the summed channel of that, being delivered to our main mixer, which gets all of our audio sources in the room and delivers them to the various destinations. What are some of the other sources in the room? We've got an audio player, we've got a USB speakerphone input, that's our far-end caller's voice that's coming in. All of this is going through several stages of processing. You can see we also have peeled off the audio of our HDMI outputs, feeding them through these processing chains as well, and they get all delivered to our mixer. So all the various audio sources get processed, go to our mixer. And then our mixer decides where they go to, right? So they could go to the AEC reference, which in this case goes to the NMT1 itself. If you've been designing conference rooms with us at all, then you know normally there would be an AEC block that has the AEC reference in that. There is AEC built in to the NMT1, so we can just deliver it to the reference channel that's immediately on that block. Where else could this be going? This might be going to the USB TX down here, where we're sending a signal to the far end via the USB speakerphone out. Perfect. This could also be going to the local loudspeakers. So we got a little bit more processing, going through a gain block, and then to our amplifier and out again. You'll notice that this 3-channel gain block, that's everything that's going to our room's loudspeakers. That's all the audio sources, that's the foreign caller's voice, that's everything. So later in the class, we're going to grab like a fader to put on the UCI for like a master volume. That's the one that we want. This 3-channel gain, this one controls everything that we're going to hear. What else is in here? Here we got our video routing a little bit further down. So our couple of HDMI sources for the laptops and our wireless presentation is coming in as HDMI sources through the NV32H. That is our core. And that is locally wired to our left and right displays. Over here, we've got our camera routing. So camera 1 and camera 2 going through a MediaCast router to the USB bridge. That's going to our PC via the USB cable. That's everything we talked about right already. Is built for you. We're not doing any of that from scratch. That exists. We won't need to mess with much of that. The rest of this, if you zoom out, is empty. And this is what we're going to be focusing on in the class, is filling this in with control. If you did the Control and UCI Fundamentals class, you remember that you filled this thing to the brim with all kinds of control components and wires and attaching things together, and it looked like it was stuffed. In this class, this is actually going to still remain relatively bare by the time we're done. But in each section, there's going to be a block controller. That's it, pretty much. Because we're going to add a bunch of block controllers, and they're going to handle all the scripting for us. So there's not a lot of components to add, not a lot of wiring to do. There is some, but it's vastly different than the class you did previously. There is one thing to take a look at, though. Down here at the bottom, there's a section called the emulator. This is very important for our class. We know that you don't have at your disposal a room to do all this in, right? And the best way to verify that you've scripted things properly is to see if it did the thing, right? If I press the button, do the lights turn on? Well, you don't have the lighting controller at your disposal. You don't have the shades at your disposal. So we've created an emulator for you that will mimic all of these things that would happen in the real world on a UCI. So I want you to go to the User Control Interfaces tab and click on Emulator UCI. This is the room that we've designed for you. Right now, the lights are off, as they should be. No one's in the room. And we're in emulation mode, and so you'll see that there's a list of controls here that you can do in the room. I can turn the lights on and lights off. Those are physical things you could really do in the room, right? You walk in, you press the button. If you click the lights on, voila, the lights in this room turn on. There are other physical things that you could do in the room. We could connect a USB cable. If I click this one on the left, look, a little USB cable pops up and connects to laptop 1. I could connect an HDMI cable to laptop 1. I could connect an HDMI cable to laptop 2. If the displays were on, I could click on Displays Go to Sleep as if the room had been idle for 15 minutes and simulate what would happen when those TVs get a signal from themselves that they want to go into an idle state. And we also have an incoming call button. We won't use this one in this class, but we're using this same template for all 3 versions of the class, and you used that in the previous version, so the button still exists. So you can do all these things physically in the room. Turn the lights on, lights off. What's going to happen is as we build our design and you automate things to happen, when you plug in the laptop, the displays will automatically turn on, right? And route the proper HDMI to them. We're going to be able to get control of the shades over on this wall that right now we don't have control of because somebody lost that remote control in the room 5 years ago, whatever it is. This emulator, if you've got 2 screens, put that emulator on one of the screens. As we go through the class and you control things, you're going to constantly come back here and look at it and watch the room react in real time to the things that you're doing in the class. So that is the emulator. Make sense? Patrick, you all good?
I'm excited.
Awesome. So take a break, come back, and we'll get started by talking about building out our UCI. See you in a bit.